Hello, Mr. Gevorg
Hello.
Almassian. It's very nice to see you. I think it's our first meeting now.
Yes.
Well, in this weekend, because yesterday we were on an interesting conference about Syria.
Exactly.
And maybe the first question what we can ask now is, who are you?
First of all, it's my pleasure to meet you and be together in this conversation. Actually, I'm Gevorg Almassian. I was born and raised in Syria, in Aleppo. I studied political science in Syria, then I moved to Lebanon. I also continued my master's degree in political science, expertise in Middle Eastern affairs. I also studied European affairs in Paris, in Sciences Po, and now I'm working as a freelance political journalist. And I own my own YouTube channel called Syriana Analysis. I try to bring what's happening in Syria from analysis, from reports, from pictures, everything that serve the Syrian cause to the European and Western audiences in general, because I believe there is a big percentage of people in the West are misled of what's happening in Syria because of the flow of information is coming from one source, which is the mainstream media. And if we do a small research who owns this mainstream media, we find that few people or few corporations are in charge of this media, so they have an interest to overthrow the government in Syria. That's why they made the propaganda about it.
And yeah, you say it now very well. A lot of people here are misled because I live in the West here. I live in Flanders, and we have the Flemish channels. And what I see about Syria, for example, it is sometimes very crazy. I see that Assad is. It looks like, somebody told it yesterday.
He's a monster.
It looks like Assad in the morning. He's waking up and he say, "How many thousand people I will kill today?" You see. It doesn't work, and then they come. Very interesting item yesterday also. It was this girl Bana, 7 years old, speaks so-called fluently English, and then we see she doesn't speak English. Not at all.
She speaks better English than me on social media, but in interviews she has not. She's not able to speak 2 sentences in English.
And for me, I'm even shocked how quickly people in the West are misled. They don't do research. They believe everything what is. When I say to my social life in Belgium, sport and all these things, and I say I like Putin, I like Assad,
then you're the bad guy.
It's a mix. Partly I'm crazy, and partly I'm a really bad guy. So
this is also happening to me now. Imagine that I'm a Syrian and I should have the right to support a political side in Syria because it's my country. So imagine that those who claim that they champion human rights or freedom of speech, if you say you're with President Assad for objective reasons, not because you love the color of his eyes or etc. You have objective reasons, you understand geopolitics, you tell them that what's happening in Syria is not about democracy and human rights. There are much greater issues happening in Syria. In my opinion, the media is simplifying the issue because most people don't have to read or don't want to read. Most people are busy with their own lives, so they take these headlines from social media as a biscuit. One sentence, today Assad killed 500 people and that's it. And if it is repeated 100 times on social media while you're scrolling down, then you become, you have an impression in your unconscious that what's happening in Syria, one side is butchering his own people, and he survived after 6 years of war while killing his own people. This is what the media is trying to portray.
And what I see, I was there it's more than a year ago. I was in Damascus. And I see everywhere pictures of Assad. This guy is really loved by his people.
By the way, this is, I want to mention this because before the war, President Assad issued an order to all government institutions to remove his pictures from the streets. He didn't want to be some sort of, to be loved by pictures, He wanted for his actions to speak. But after the war, the people by themselves, they like posted pictures of Assad, pictures of Putin, pictures of Hassan Nasrallah, and even Chinese flags, because they are grateful. This is Syrian people would never ever forget the help they get from their allies, because without the allies, Syria would have been gone from the map at this moment. These terrorist organizations that the many Western governments support, unfortunately, they are able to annihilate the Syrian society and the pattern of life that we used to have in Syria.
So without Russia, it was now another situation.
It was very difficult situation in Syria without the help of Russia, without the help of Iran and China, because we have more than 80 nationalities fighting against the Syrian government. We have tens of thousands of fighters. Among them are thousands of multinational terrorists. Imagine that people coming from West China, from an area called Turkestan, to fight against Assad. So why do these people coming thousands of kilometers, miles to fight against Assad? Do you think they want to champion human rights or democracy? They don't have human rights or democracy in the areas that they are in the regions that they live. You know, they want to champion the radical version of Wahhabi Islam in Syria, which is Saudi Arabian pattern.
Yeah. What is your opinion? Because you're a specialist of the Middle East. What is the geopolitical importance of Syria? Actually, because it's not in the Middle East, it's not so big country. Yes. It's bigger than in Europe. It will be a big country.
Yes.
But when you see Saudi Arabia, you see Iran, and so they're much bigger.
Syria actually is in the heart of the. In Syria, we say it's in the heart of the world because it connects Syria. Syria connects the region to Europe, through Turkey. It connects Asia to the Mediterranean Sea. It's the only country that connects the Asia, Central Asia and Far East Asia towards the Mediterranean Sea. And it also connects to Africa, and this is why, for example, the British in the late 19th century, they gave the Balfour. There was the Declaration of Balfour, and that's why they created Israel in the middle of Palestine. By by doing so, they disconnected Syria from Africa. This is one of the reasons now. Then Egypt went out from the equation of Arab-Israeli conflict, and Syria remained alone in this conflict. Nowadays, Syria, if we check the battles on the ground, what the Americans are trying to do, they want to transform Syria into some sort of peninsula. They want to create a Kurdish belt in the north, so disconnecting Syria from Europe, from Turkey. In the south, they have the so-called south and southeast, they have the so-called New Syrian Army, also proxies of the United States. They want to disconnect Syria from the Gulf countries and from Israel. And also on the east side, they are trying to expel ISIS from Raqqa, because they open a road for ISIS. The Kurds are opening a road for ISIS to go from Raqqa either to Palmyra or to Deir ez-Zor.
So ISIS and the Kurds are together?
They are not together. They're fighting, but the Kurds are not. When they besiege the ISIS, they give them one choice, that we will open you a corridor, you go out to south or southeast, you go towards Deir ez-Zor, and they allow them to go with the four-wheel pickups. This is very important. If all these Toyota cars that ISIS enjoys, the Kurds are allowing them to go out with these cars, because it's very easy to move with these cars towards Deir ez-Zor. Without these cars, you will die in the middle of the desert in Syria. So the Kurds are playing a dirty game with the Americans in this regard, but the Syrians, they don't want to antagonize the Kurds because the majority are Syrians. But at this particular moment, the Kurds feel that they are strong. There is the United States behind them, American weapons, American technology, American air cover, so they want to do something for themselves.